Hi, it's me again. This is the second part of the video where I'm building, or I'm actually finishing the Porsche Carrera GT that I got through Tom Ruiter's Patreon channel. Last video was a little bit boring. Somebody put a comment there, which was totally right. But first of all, I'm just getting into this type of thing, so I'll try to do better. Second of all, my voice is just what it is, so I can't really do much about that. But I think this video will be a little bit more interesting because it will show you a little bit more of what I'm actually doing with the build. An important thing is that it took me some time to sort of get into it. Normally when you start a build fresh from scratch, you will gradually get into all the parts and all the things you need to do, and that makes it a bit easier to get your flow right. In this build, I had to go back and forth between all the parts and looking at where I needed to put what, and also stuff like what was already painted and what needed to still be painted, the color schemes, some of the things that Tom had already airbrushed, all that type of thing made it a little bit more difficult to get into it. But and the second thing obviously is that I don't have a lot of time doing this, so it's a couple of minutes here, half an hour there, maybe late at night or trying to get through this, so that's why it took quite long to get to this second video. Anyway, this is quite a long video too, and it will still not be finished, but I will take you through some of the steps that I did. As you can see here, I started airbrushing some of the parts that still needed airbrushing, mostly engine parts. Engine wasn't built yet, and that was actually the first thing that I went on doing. So nothing more to say really, just doing the spray. Then this was actually something that I didn't expect. There was a lot of carbon fiber decals on the kit, and Tom I must say has probably had a terrible time in getting all those decals to fit, and it must have been a lot of hours of work to get everything there. And most of it was already done, luckily. But some of the other parts I tried to sort of finish for him, and I have to be honest here, I just couldn't get it done correctly. I've tried several times to get things to fit and to stick, and it was just, even with the microset and microsole, I couldn't get it to properly take the form that it needed to, and then it started ripping apart, and it was terrible. So I decided to actually not do any of the extra decals. Most of them were on already, but one thing, as you can see here, that I did see is that this back part of the monocoque chassis was done for about 50%. So I decided to take off that was already done and to keep the rest, to take off the parts that were already done and keep the rest as is. That was actually also quite a difficult job to do, because it didn't want to come off really easily, but in the end I did that. So sorry, Tom, for that. You must feel terrible that all your hard work has now gone to pieces, but okay, that's the way I chose to do it, because I just couldn't get it right. Some of the paints I use here are new. I used to paint with Tamiya paints, and I am now gradually going into some of the other paints. So that's also something that took some getting used to be honest. But we'll get there in the end. So next part is just me doing some detail work on engine parts. So here is, after the problem that I had with the decals, the second part where I made a mistake actually, and you can see here that it doesn't quite fit. So that back part of the exhaust, like that muffler, or I don't know what you call it, didn't really fit and attach to the exhaust manifolds. And I found out that actually the placement of the engine on that bottom part was not completely correct. So that's why it didn't fit. So I had to sort of break that apart and make that fit. You can see here that it took some knife work to make that slot a little bit bigger, to actually get that engine flush with that bottom plate, which would then also take care of that problem where the exhaust manifolds didn't really fit that end of the exhaust. So anyway, that was the second thing that sort of went wrong. It won't be the last, I'll tell you. So here I made another small mistake. I didn't properly prime these parts, and then I used an actual airbrush thinned color to put the yellow on, which obviously wasn't a very good idea because it just would take a lot of layers to get it to cover it completely. So in the end, after doing 2 layers, I decided against it and went with gold, a gold color which I had, which I thought would also look nice. I'm still at the point where I am. I might, after the gold layer, go back to yellow again, because originally they need to be yellow. But you will see later on, or maybe you can already see it here, that I went for gold brake calipers, just to get rid of that problem with the yellow not covering the gray original plastic completely. These suspension arms were a bit fiddly to do. A lot of different colors with red and black, and I ended up putting some silver on the springs, just because it looks nice, really. I did that with one of the pens that make it a little bit easier to do that, and you just hit the outside of the coils of the springs, really. Which gives a nice effect. After finishing this whole assembly, I noticed that there were some photo etched parts that could be used here. You see some photo etched parts already on here, but there are more that you can use at the end fittings of the whole spring assembly. And I just didn't see that in time, so I finished this off actually without using those, and now I'm thinking maybe I should just leave it and not use those parts. With these little details, it's sometimes easier to use a permanent marker like I'm doing here. In retrospect, for this specific part, I might have been better off just using a little brush, but I didn't I just went for the permanent marker because I thought that would be a bit easier, less prone to make mistakes. But again, I probably would have been better to use a brush. Anyway, this is it for now. It's almost 30 minutes. I do know that you know, it's quite detailed, and you might think it needs to be a little bit more quick next video, so maybe I'll do that. Anyway, I hope that you're still with me at this point, and hopefully we'll be back for the third video on this subject.